Tariffs have been heavily discussed since Trump first came into office, and they are often a source of dispute. What certainly isn't disputed is that tariffs are shaking up global trade and how they can completely reshape trade in Asia. If you've been following the news, you might have heard Trump tariffs hitting in 2025. 25% on Canada and Mexico, and an extra 10% on the already existing 50% on China. But this isn't just about one policy or one country. Tariffs, no matter who's imposing them, have a ripple effect, especially in Asia, the beating heart of the world supply chains. So grab a coffee and let's unpack how this could change everything. From factories in Vietnam to shipping lanes in Singapore. Stick around, because by the end you will see why this matters to you, even if you're nowhere near Asia. So first things first, what are tariffs? Simply put, they are taxes slapped on imported goods. Governments use them to protect local industries, raise revenue, or sometimes just flex some geopolitical muscle. Now, why does Asia care so much? Well, Asia is basically the world's factory floor. Think about it, your phone, your clothes, maybe even your car parts. Chances are they've got made in China, made in Vietnam, or made in any other Asian country on them stamped somewhere. Countries like China, Vietnam, Malaysia and Thailand are hooked into this massive web of trade, producing goods that ship out globally. But when tariffs hit, that web starts to tangle. Supply chains, those intricate systems moving raw materials to finished products, feel the strain. And Asia is right in the crosshairs. Let's break down how supply chains work real quick. Picture this: a smartphone starts with a rare earth material mined in China, gets assembled in Vietnam with chips from Taiwan, then ships out from a port in Singapore. It's a relay race across borders, and every step's optimized for speed and cost. Asia has nailed this system: cheap labor, top-notch infrastructure, and proximity to massive markets like the US and Europe. But tariffs? They're like throwing sand in the gears. They jack up costs, slow things down, and force companies to rethink where and how they make stuff. And that's where the reshaping begins. So what happens when tariffs strike? First off, costs go up. If a country like the US taxes imports from China, companies either eat the extra cost or pass it to you, the consumer, or a mix of both. But here's the kicker: they don't just sit there and take it. Businesses start looking for plan B. Take Vietnam for example. Over the past decade, it has become a hotspot for manufacturers dodging tariffs on Chinese goods. Why? Lower labor costs and no tariffs under some trade deals until now. But there's a catch. Vietnam is not ready to replace China's scale. Its ports are clogged, its factories are stretched thin. So while tariffs pushed production out of one place, they don't always land smoothly somewhere else. The supply chain gets choppy. Now let's talk about the biggest exporter in Asia, China. It is still the king of manufacturing. Think solar panels, electronics, you name it. Tariffs aimed at China, like the recent Trump ones, try to kneecap its exports. But China is not going down without a fight. It's got a playbook: shift production to other places, pump out goods under different labels, double down on domestic demand, and apply tariffs on their own on US products. Problem is, moving factories isn't cheap or fast. You need land, workers, infrastructure, and that takes years. Meanwhile, the supply chain's in limbo, cost spikes, and companies scramble. Plus, if China retaliates with its own tariffs, like it did in 2018, everyone feels the burn. So, who wins and who loses? In the past, some Asian countries came out ahead. Vietnam, Malaysia and Thailand have already seen booms from companies fleeing China's tariff woes in the past. Malaysia's semiconductor sector, for instance, was exploding. Malaysia's Penang turned into a tech hub. The problem is now with the most recent tariffs. These countries, which profited heavily off of China's tariffs, are now under the crosshair themselves. So almost every country in Asia right now is sweating. Higher tariffs mean fewer orders, clogged ports and pricier shipping. And smaller players, think Cambodia or the Philippines, could get crushed. The supply chain doesn't just shift, it fractures. The fragmentation risk is where it gets messy. Tariffs don't just move production, they can split supply chains into two. Imagine one chain for the US dodging tariffs and another one for everyone else. That's inefficient as hell. Take electronics, chips from Taiwan might go to Mexico for the US market, while a separate line feeds Europe from Thailand. Double the factories, double the costs. Experts call this bifurcation, and it's a nightmare for companies obsessed with lean operations. Asia's whole edge, its slick, unified supply chain, starts to crumble. If you think the US will just build everything themselves again, think again. Many raw materials aren't available in the US at all, and during the past 50 years, robust supply chains have been built around the entire world. Entire countries specializing in one part of the supply chain. Even a country like the US can't produce everything themselves within months or a few years. And guess who pays for all of this? It's you, the consumer. Higher tariffs mean higher prices. Phones, clothes, cars, everything. Back in 2018, US tariffs on Chinese goods added about $1,000 a year to the average American household's bill. Now, with China's supply chain scrambling, those costs could climb again. Companies might reshore to places like the US or Mexico, but that's pricey too. Labor is not cheap there. So either they eat the loss or your wallet does. It's a slow burn, but it hits. Let's zoom out for a second. Tariffs aren't just about trade, they are geopolitical chess. They push Asia to rethink alliances, lean harder on regional deals like the ASEAN trade bloc, or cozy up to Europe instead of the US. Supply chains don't just adapt, they evolve. Long term, Asia might build more self-reliant systems, less hooked on Western markets. But short term, it's guaranteed chaos, delays, shortages, price hikes. The recent Trump tariffs are just the latest spark, but this conflict has been boiling for years. Asia's trade future hangs on how fast it can pivot. So there you have it. Tariffs could redraw Asia's trade map, for better or for worse. We will see. Supply chains are the backbone of this story, and they are bending under the pressure. What do you think? Will Asia bounce back stronger, or are we in for a rough ride? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you learned something, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Thanks for watching, I will catch you in the next one.